Carmen, the last thing you do is blame the victims. My goodness, these people were abducted, they were sexually assaulted, they were tied up, they were beaten, and they were set on fire. To somehow try to blame them is unconscionable.
I agree with you, Greg. There's no blame on the victims in this case. I mean, I operate under the foundation that, you know, your home is your castle. As you know, my husband is a judge. I myself am running for a judicial position in Nassau, and we have 2 children. My home is the sanctity where you pray that everything is safe. And maybe things would have turned out different if we concentrated on the fact that he was previously on parole. There were multiple home invasions that had been conducted by these defendants. So we have to concentrate on who is sitting on these jurors, who's prosecuting these cases, who's defending these cases, and you know, who's actually hearing these cases and passing sentences on serious felonies like this, where these people or person who's convicted of such serious crimes is not able to have an opportunity to prey on the victimless.
Sarah, part of the defense here, it seems like a conviction is inevitable. I think the defense may be trying to save the life of the accused here, and part of the defense is, well, he was sexually abused as a boy. He later turned to self-mutilation and drugs. Is that effective?
I mean, to his lawyer's defense, you know, I think he's done a fine job presenting or trying to educate the jury by way of expert testimony as to this guy's background. I mean, under civil law, we've got the eggshell plaintiff and his whole gamut of dysfunction and disabilities, etc., that come with him. And I think in this case, it's a death case. So, you know, it's important for the jurors to know that this guy, he's a very troubled man. He comes from a long history of sexual and drug abuse. He's self-mutilated. He had at least 5 head concussions, where his cognitive ability is handicapped, essentially. So the question then becomes, you know, how many concussions does it take to commit a heinous offense like this, and how many does it take to mitigate it, you know? And this guy, you know, was presented, I mean, this is part of his defense, that, you know, Hayes did all of this. And then the question becomes, well, why did he not respond properly? And why did he not untie these girls and save them from this arson? And I think that's where the expert testimony is important. And I feel his defense attorney has done a decent job in trying to educate the jurors that, you know, this guy is not like you and I. He doesn't respond that way in a new situation under a lot of stress. You know, he's cognitively not normal, obviously.
You know, Arthur, jurors typically in a death penalty phase of the trial, once the conviction is had, they have to weigh mitigating versus aggravating circumstances. So these would be the mitigating circumstances: concussions, sex abuse, drug
disabled,
addict, came from a bad.
But the aggravating circumstances are horrific. I mean, look, I've said this about this case. It doesn't really get worse than this. I mean, this is a horror movie.
As bad as it gets.
Literally, like when you go to the movies and you hear when you want to watch a horrible movie, these are the sets of circumstances. So it's very difficult for a criminal defense attorney. And I agree at this point, they should be just trying to save his life if you believe that being in a box for the rest of your life is a better punishment than giving a needle and quietly going off to wherever you're going to go to. But the aggravating, what the prosecutor said, maybe he closed the doors so he didn't have to hear the screams of the young girls. That's
typical
gripping.
aggravating factors are known by the acronym HACK, heinous, atrocious, and cruel. This is the quintessential heinous, atrocious, and cruel, isn't it?
Definitely. You know, they preyed on them. The sexual acts committed on the children in that home. The violence involved with this particular crime goes to a level where all of us, you know, find it horrific.
Burning them to death. I mean,
there's nothing else that could be said. This is at the top of the scale of one of the worst cases.
And the dad lives. I mean, that almost is worse in a weird way. Like, he's got to live with that anguish.
And he'd been so awfully beaten with a baseball bat that he could barely move or think. He struggled to sort of get out of the house and get help, but it wasn't in time. All right.
I'm sure the prosecutor is going to do a masterful job painting a picture of just what you said. The dad, and then how badly does a father and a husband want to help his wife and his daughters, and they had disabled him to such a point where he couldn't even get to a telephone.
All right, Sarah Zeri, who's an attorney in Los Angeles. Sarah, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.